Hey, Fire FC families, thank you for joining me on this month's Sports Psych session. Today, wanted to delve into being stronger than we were yesterday, but before we get there, I wanted to first start this presentation off with an interview I recently had with a Fire FC alum. Her name is Sammy Feller. She plays currently for the Chicago Red Star, and she had some interesting feedback that I think you'll find interesting as well, and that is, what advice would she give to her younger self?
I think if I could talk to my 16-year-old self when I was committing to college, I would have seen a sports psych. If I heard that advice when I was in high school, I would have said, I don't believe you. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But it is so important
hmm
because when you're having fun, it's easy to play soccer. When you're not having fun, you still are expected to be at the same level,
Yep.
but it feels impossible to get there.
So I think an interesting video. I shared that one via social media on our platforms via Instagram and Facebook. Wanted to share it with our viewers here on this sports psych session because I think it can ring true for a lot of players. Again, it's easy to do better or feel like we can perform at our best when we're feeling good, right? And it's so difficult to do that. And as Sammy alluded to, it sometimes feels impossible to play our best when we're not feeling our best. And so thank you for taking the time to join us on this sports psych session. Let's dig in a little bit to see what else we have here at the forefront. So again, we use this, we meaning Fire FC, use these opportunities, these sports psych opportunities to help build the skill set for your sons and daughters because it's relatively easy to help them improve when we're on the field, to improve technically, to improve their physical demeanor, to improve their skill set and the tactical understanding of the game and the nuances there. But it's really difficult for a lot of coaches to delve into the mental facet, which is exactly why we want to present opportunities like these to not just give ideas, but give actual and real life tools that your sons and daughters can apply from today moving forward. They don't need to wait 3 years. They don't need to wait till they're 17 to apply these ideas. They can take them exactly where they're at and start building on them as they move through. And now we lean on you as parents to help facilitate and come back to these discussions. So hopefully this isn't the first and last time they hear some of these ideas. Wanted to start off with a question, and that is, does your son and daughter, do they play video games? And did you play video games growing up? I want to follow that up with, why did you play? Well, I wanted to share this stat, and more so for parents versus our players out there. Did you know that 80% of kids that play video games do it for the validation, affirmation, attention, and socialization? Maybe that's not a surprise, but this one probably is. 80% of kids do it for those reasons because they don't get it at home. I asked a kid recently, what video games do you play? And they said the ones that I'm actually good at, and those that I actually get attention and feel like I'm being successful with. I think what an interesting statement for why that kid chooses to play video games, and kind of heartbreaking if you're a parent out there listening to this right now to say, wow, am I present with my child, right? I think we always demonize a lot of technology to say, oh, all they want to do is X, right? And I think an interesting stat for all of us parents, myself included out there, to say, make sure we're present and we're mindful of these things, that we are giving them those social skills and that attention when they're within our presence. This Iceberg Illusion, before we delve into the content too much, I also wanted to present this activity. I did it when I was in LA with all of our girls programs, from our 9 and 10-year-old coaches all the way through our elite programming in U18. So there again, it's a very relevant activity. I challenge, if you're a coach listening to this right now, do this activity with your team. I think it will give you some interesting insights as to where somebody is coming from. For example, this Iceberg Illusion activity is this. You create a visual, whether it's drawing, the drawing is going to be the easiest way to perform it. You're going to, of course, delve into other ways to share it and discuss it. But creating a visual, on top, what do people see? They see the accolades. They see the end product, right? They see you with your responses, how you choose to respond to questions, right? What they don't see is, as you can see in this illusion, this iceberg illusion, the hard work, the persistence, the dedication that it took, the failures that you might have gone through along the way that nobody realized that you had to go through them. Well, I want to share with you a very specific one from a 10-year-old that my wife was coaching at the time in the Southern California area, and this is what the 10-year-old came back with. If you can't read it, I don't blame you, so I'll describe it as best I can. It's an adult asking the girl, "Hey, how are you?" And she says, "Good." But underneath her reality was, "Stop, stop, stop. Don't mess up. Stop, do not cry. Be better. Charlie, you are so stupid." This is her self-talk going on. Don't mess up, right? This is coming from a 10-year-old. So I think just a very interesting, again, activity for coaches to do. And because it facilitates a discussion as to what might you be going through. Maybe it's an individual discussion, or maybe it's a team discussion. What might you be going through that not many people know about? And I think this helps facilitate some of those conversations that not all coaches are willing to have, but I think it's important to have them. And like I said, this was an activity I did and required all of our from 9 years old all the way to 18 years old. And I think it's very relevant. It's just a matter of how the conversation is steered based on the information that they share. I want to share with you real briefly something that I've learned over the years. What I've learned over the years is that talent exists. I don't think that's any surprise to you or I. That speed, agility, the ability to finish and defend, not just well, but really well. It all exists out there. Spotting a pass and playing it from 30, 40 yards long, dribbling through a mass of players, or just making a great slide tackle. For you defenders out there, for you midfielders out there, it just feels good when you can just time it perfectly and win that ball back in those moments, right? These moments all exist. But what else is very true is that the ability to consistently showcase your skill sets under pressure is influenced heavily by your mindset. So now I want to take the time, maybe the next 20-ish minutes, to talk about what is entailed within this mindset piece so we're stronger than we were yesterday. I want to leave you in a better place today than you were before you started this conversation. Are you a conditional athlete? That's where I want you to think about right now. Are you a conditional athlete, for those of you watching this? And to make sure we're on the same page of what conditional is about if something happens, then this will happen. And I'll divert to this example. You know what hotel I love going to is the DoubleTree. Why? Because the DoubleTree always presents you with, right upon your arrival, with the chocolate chip cookie. And it's never hard. It's always soft. It feels like it just came out of the oven all the time. So from a conditional aspect, it's so easy to be nice to that person that's taking the name and number and checking you in. She's like, "Oh, and would you like a warm chocolate chip cookie with that today?" Or if there's 2 or 3 of you, "Oh, would you like a few cookies to take with you up to your room?" And that's what conditional is about. It's, hey, if she treats me good, I'm going to treat her good, right? And that's an easy one to go with. But let me relate it more specifically to maybe you as a soccer player. Is your effort conditional based upon you being a starter or a sub, right? If you're starting, are you willing to give that effort? But then if you're not starting, are you willing to give that same effort when you get in the game, right? Or when you're on the bench not starting, are you really engaged? Or are you just like, whatever, it's not a big deal because I'm not starting, right? Maybe it's a score. Or is your performance conditioned based on the score of a game, right? It's relatively easy to have all the energy in the world when the game's 0-0. Maybe it's late in the game and you're up 1-0, or you're down 1-0, or it's tied 2-2. There's 10 minutes left. It's easy to have all that energy, right? What if your team's down and getting thumped in Las Vegas in a tournament 5-0? Is your energy and effort levels and commitment levels to your team to do the right thing? Are they just as high as they would have been had the game been 0-0? Here's maybe a third example. Maybe you really aspire to be a captain for your team. And moving into the season, you've done all you can and you're prepping to take that leadership role, but you still aren't selected. You're not selected to have that captain armband on. Is Is your effort and commitment to your team then conditioned, and does it lessen because you don't have something around that arm? So know this, there's nothing wrong with being conditional, right? There's just know what that entails. It's if this happens, then this will happen. But I have an important piece of information for you, and it's this. There's nothing about being conditional that's going to help you get places that you've never been and that you aspire to be. Being conditional is just going to keep you from those opportunities. I think an interesting quote I heard recently was, champions do daily what others do occasionally. Let me repeat that. Champions do daily what others do occasionally. Being non-conditional is about having more honesty, more consistency, yes, for others, but most importantly for yourself. Being non-conditional is about something that's in you, not being worried about something that's on you. I think that's such an important distinction when we think about answering that question, am I a conditional athlete? Be more concerned with what's in you versus what's on you. Here's another area of life that you might be conditional on. Are you a conditional, change that word athlete to friend? Are you a conditional friend? Would you agree with this statement? If I treat you well, you'll treat me well. Anybody believe in that? What about the opposite? Is the opposite true? If I don't treat you well, do you not treat me well in return? I think something to be mindful of as you navigate your friendships. My challenge to you is this. Get beyond worrying about how I treat you. You will take yourself to another level if you treat me good, regardless of how I treat you. You will get yourself to another level. You will create opportunities that very few are willing and able to create because you have a sense of empathy. I didn't say sympathy. Sympathy is feeling bad for someone. If you can have a sense of empathy, understanding where somebody else comes from, now you start delving into this a little bit. Now you start understanding not everybody is going to look at the same situation the same way, right? And you don't know what other situations might someone have gone through to get where they got, to get in that moment. What I know to be true, especially the older I've gotten, is hurt people hurt. What I mean by that is people that hurt on the outside are usually hurting on the inside, and it goes back to this iceberg illusion. We don't know their story. Is it their family life that is more challenging than maybe I understand? But I can be empathetic because I understand that's hard to deal with, right? Is their friend group a negative friend group, in which case they put out a lot of negativity? Do they listen via social media or via just media in general to a lot of negative things, in which case that has a knock-on effect? I think it's an important realization to understand as you navigate you getting older is be more mindful of treat people good because it's something that's in you. It's not something that's on you or something that happens to you that dictates whether or not you're being good. Are you with me? Just be mindful of that one. Last question for you before we move on. Where is conditional effort showing up in your life? Is it within your friendships? Is it within your soccer team or more broadly other sports teams that you participate in? Is it within school? Is your school performance conditional based on maybe you get a little incentive financially if you get a certain amount of A's, right? All of a sudden that's taken away and I don't want to put forth the effort because I'm not getting rewarded the same, right? Get rid of those conditional situations as quickly as you can because they will not create opportunities for you moving forward. They will only withhold opportunities from you moving forward. Are you with me? So just be mindful of that. And being a conditional, whether it be athlete, student, friend, whatever, it's going to leave you disappointed, right? Because not only is it going to take opportunities away from you and not create them, but it's going to leave you disappointed because you're always going to feel like, well, why didn't I get something in return? Get that something in return out and just be good and do your best because you know that's the right thing to do. Are you a conditional athlete? That's a very interesting question, and be mindful for how you choose to answer that moving forward. And remember, actions speak louder than words. What do you think of when you see these images? The guy on the right, the guy on the left, the girl on the right. What comes to mind? What comes to mind for me is it's somebody beating themselves up. It's somebody that's mad at themselves. Maybe it's after a performance. Maybe it's after a situation they had with their friends. And it's this self-talk. It's this one-on-one situation. It's me and myself. Me and myself. And maybe it's you literally looking in the mirror. Maybe it's just you by yourself in your room thinking things to yourself. But can we agree on this, that being hard on yourself is not a way to build yourself up. It's a way to tear yourself down. It's not going to help make you more mentally strong by beating yourself up. It's going to leave you bruised. And it's not necessarily going to leave you bruised on the outside where people see it. It's going to leave you bruised on the inside where you feel it. So be mindful that it's not going to do you any good to beat yourself up, whether it's in the mirror talking negatively to yourself, or whether it's you just thinking to yourself in your bedroom. It's not going to help your situation. Let's shift the focus. Do you know who this gentleman is? Well, if you guessed it's him, you're right? But think about this guy, Jokic. Did you know there's 60 NBA picks in any given NBA draft in each given year? Did you know he was pick number 41? Right? He's going from a situation where he wasn't the most fit kid to he was drafted but not in the top 10, not in the top 5. He's number 41. Could you imagine if he looked in a mirror and told himself, "Oh my God, I'm not a lottery pick. I'm not one of the top 10 identified. Like my NBA career might as well be over." Right? But that wasn't the case. He's taken that situation to say, this is the beginning, not the end. This is the new opportunity for me, not something that's being taken away from me. Right? And we see what he's made of it so far in his career. And he's built continuously, consistently building on that success, isn't he? Do you know who this picture is? If you don't, maybe this one will help you. Love this moment in time because, yes, this is Taylor Swift. Did you know she came to Grand Junction? Yeah, in the year 2015, December 2015. She came to see this young girl, Delaney Clements. She heard via social media that Delaney had terminal cancer and that Delaney's number one fan in the whole wide world was Taylor Swift. And it got back to Taylor Swift, so Taylor Swift flew down here in December of 2015 to see Delaney. Unfortunately, Delaney passed away in, I believe it was March 2016. So what, 3 months later? So would you say she was lucky to meet Taylor Swift? For sure. Not everybody gets that opportunity, right? Unfortunately for her, she's not with us any longer. But I think what a class act on Taylor Swift's part to take the time to make this happen and make it come to real life for somebody that was such a huge fan of hers. How about this individual? I think we all know who this is, but do you know when this is? Right? This is after the World Cup final in 2014. Messi sitting by himself, obviously disappointed that he didn't get it. But fast forward 8 years, and he's on top of a really good friend's shoulders, right? What am I trying to get at with these three examples of Jokic, Taylor Swift, and Messi? So often, as individuals, we give the benefit of the doubt for those that we look up to. We remember them for their best moments. We rarely remember them for their worst moments. And what I'm telling you right now, make sure you give yourself permission to do the same. Make sure you give yourself permission to remind yourself of what the really good moments and successes you've had, and stop beating yourself up over some of our setbacks and the challenges that are presented our way. Stop beating yourself down. Start building yourself up. I can remember starting these sports psych sessions exactly 1 year ago. It was last April. 2023 was our first one. And the topic of that very first session was building your inner voice. And I said, be mindful of two things about your inner voice. One, what is it saying to you? And two, how does it speak to you? Is it a voice that builds you up or breaks you down? Whatever it does, be mindful that you're the one that gets to choose how it talks to you. And if you don't like it, change it. Because you have that opportunity and you have that responsibility to do so. Here's an interesting slide. To hit your target, I think a lot of people forget this. You have to be willing to miss. So many people get caught up in the periphery on those misses that are even outside of this target. And so many people see that not as an opportunity to start new again, but to quit. And they don't give themselves the opportunity to get closer to their goals because they're so fixated on having a perfect practice and the perfect conditions to play the perfect game, none of which will happen. Be okay with missing and redefine what missing the target means and what can you learn from that? What little tweak can I get from that miss to make it a little bit better next time until I do hit my target, right? And so you're making little tweaks, right? But you have to be willing to miss along the way and understand that perfect doesn't exist. Understand that some is better than none and being done is better than perfect. Keep moving forward one step at a time. Perfection won't exist, but moving forward does. Be more concerned with your progress moving forward. So how do we come over messing up? I think a very important question for all of us because we can mess up in so many different spaces. It's not just soccer, right? But here's one idea for how to overcome messing up. Number one, expect to mess up. Expect to do it every day. I didn't say do it intentionally, but I did say from a mindset standpoint, expect to do it. So when it does happen, you can move on quickly. Speaking of moving on quickly, focus on your next move when you do mess up. Stop focusing on your last move. So many people handicap themselves from moving forward again because of what just happened. And what just happened, you have no control over anymore. But what you do have control over is what you're going to do next, how you choose to respond to something that just happened to you. That's what separates people. When you encounter a setback, when you encounter messing up, is that an opportunity to stop or a new opportunity to start new? Start new again, right? Depends which one you choose that will dictate where you go, right? But those are two ways to overcome messing up. One, expect to mess up, right? Perfect doesn't exist. And focus on your next move, not your last move. The next move you can influence. Your last move, can't do anything more about. A technique for enjoying success, ask your past self, ask what your past self, would think of where you are now. It reminds you to appreciate how far you've come. I think we get so bogged down sometimes with, well, I can't be happy because I'm not done with this yet, and then you're never happy because you're never recognizing those moments. And it goes back to that situation I asked with Sammy, is looking back, what advice would you give yourself? And I think sometimes when we look back, we can appreciate the progress we've made. Understand this, your first fill in the blank, be whatever you want it to be, it's going to be bad. Here again, this is where so many people stop themselves from even moving forward because they stop after the first one, or they're so fearful of doing the first one because they know that it's probably not going to be that good, so they never even try it, and then they have to live with regret to say, I really like that though. I wish I would have done that. Don't be that person. Accept the fact that your first is not going to look like your 100th. But you can never get to your 100th if you don't get to your first. Remember this as you continue to navigate. Should you take a chance in being vulnerable in certain situations, in putting yourself out there, right? In certain situations, you can't get to your 100th of anything if you don't do your first of that something, right? Your invisible secret. We all hear about the importance of hard work, the importance of grinding, the importance of not just having a job, but maybe you need to have a side hustle as well in case your job doesn't work out, or in case you can make enough money, it's your side hustle and then it replaces your job. But really, your invisible secret is patience. I think this is such a key attribute that all of us are equipped with, but rarely gets talked about. And the importance, and why is that your secret? So many friendships, so many companies, so many societies have been destroyed because of a lack of patience. And each one of us have this ability for patience. So my question to you is, knowing we have that characteristic, how do you make it stronger? How do you make it better? How do you improve it? How do you work on having patience, right? If that's my invisible secret, is patience. How do I work on that? Well, one thought from me would be switch your focus. When you want something to really happen, shift your mind into something else to allow that to some time to sink in a little bit, to switch off and think about something else and not being worried about right here, right now, have to finish this. Maybe come back to it. And depending on what that it is, whether it's coming back later in the day, maybe it's later after a couple days, maybe it's later that week. Shoot, maybe depending on what it is, it's later that month. But give yourself that time to displace yourself from those emotional situations and come back to it. And I'll leave you with this last idea, and I mentioned it in a prior sports psych session, but be impatiently patient. You're just like, wait, those are two contradicting words. Be patiently impatient. Be impatient to start today. Stop waiting for tomorrow. Stop waiting for a new Monday. Stop waiting for the first of the month. What's wrong with starting on a Friday, April 5th? What's wrong with that? Like, why do you need to wait and waste another 25-ish days to start on May 1? What's so special about May 1? Or why not start on a Friday? Why do you have to start on a Monday? Why do so many people wait for January 1 and waste all the time between now and then? You don't have to. So be impatient to start today, but be patient over the long run. Give yourself that time to say, what little steps can I make today and tomorrow and the next day? And now looking at your body of work, over a month, over 3 months, over a half of a year, and over a year. Now you can see that progress, right? So displace yourself and maybe step away sometimes from whatever it is that you really want to accomplish to give yourself that time to focus on something else, right? So be impatient to start today. Be patient over that long-term time frame in which you want to accomplish something. 6 things I wish I knew when I was 16 years old. Want to share these ones with you briefly. People aren't thinking of you in the way you think they're thinking of you. We suffer more in our own imaginations than we do in reality. If you struggle making friends, that's okay and that's normal. Don't beat yourself up for it. Enjoy hanging out with different people, and relationships are going to come. Whether they're in school, on the soccer field, off the field, wherever they come from, they come from. Be okay with that. There's no path to success that doesn't include failure. So it's not only okay to fail, it's necessary, it's needed. Change your perspective on failure early and you'll be wildly successful. Change it to what? Change it to what did I learn today, not what did I fail at today. Again, is that an ending or a new beginning for you? Depends how you look at the situation. You have all the time in the world, so stop stressing about what you're going to do for a living. You could fail for the next 20 years and still have time. You don't need to have things figured out. So stop stressing over what is it that I'm going to do for the rest of my life, ... Start focusing on what do I really enjoy doing now. Focus that energy and that time into what it is that you enjoy doing now, and you're not going to have that regret later. Social media isn't real life. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but let me elaborate a little bit. Stop comparing your hardships and struggles to other people's achievements and highlight reels. Life is a roller coaster. Embrace it, and not a stroll in park that looks aesthetic on the gram, right? Be mindful of this as you, unfortunately, probably choose to take time to scroll through the mind-numbing amounts of videos and pictures, etc. Just remind yourself it's not real life. It's not how things work. Yeah. Last but not least, you get more of what you focus on. If you focus on the good things that happen, you notice more examples of good in your life. And the opposite is true. If you focus on the negative things, you'll start to notice more of those examples when they pop up. So my last piece of advice to you, consume things that make you better. And if it's a negative thing, my question to you is, does that make you a better person for it? I would argue that probably not. So why are you choosing to take that in? Consume things that help you improve. I'm going to leave you with these last couple slides. I think they lean into, they're more of a reminder than anything else, but I think they're important reminders nonetheless. Not be with someone that makes you happy. Be someone that makes you happy. It goes back to you don't have to have everything figured out right now, and that's okay. Be someone that makes you happy. What do you enjoy doing? Where do you enjoy spending your time? Do more of that. The percentage of your worst days that you made it through, reminder, but remember, you've made it through all those tough days. You made it through all those tough times. As difficult as they may have seemed in the moment, remind yourself of that every once in a while. It's not a matter of, am I prepared for this moment? You are prepared for this moment. You're ready for this moment. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this moment. So go get it and stop seeing and questioning yourself, I don't know if I'm ready. Yes, you are ready. So go tackle it head on and go run to things. Stop backing away from things. Last 2 slides. 99.9% of the people that judge you or have opinions of you have no idea what's actually happening in your life. So stop letting those who don't mean that much mean that much. Let me repeat that. Stop letting those that don't mean that much mean that much. When people want to spread hate on social media or hate you in a picture that you posted because you were so happy in that moment with those friends, but they're just like, thanks for the invite, bro. Stop. They don't have all the context. Yeah. Love yourself first. Love yourself most. I think we do a good job overall of putting other people first a lot of the times, but don't forget this one, right? Where my head goes to, and it might be a weird analogy at this moment in time, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. When you're on an airplane, what's the instruction before you take off? That if that mask drops down, who do they say to secure first? The one next to you? No, it's yourself. You have to secure that mask first for yourself to make sure you're okay, and then you can help other people, right? So love yourself first, love yourself most, then spread it after that. Be your own number one fan. I think we all want those friends and that recognition to be like, Bro, that was awesome. Girl, you killed it today, right? But be your own number one fan. I think we so often hear on interviews via the sports centers on the news, just like, I'm my biggest critic. Well, let me flip that. Are you also in moments that good things are happening? Are you also your number one fan? Because you should be. Stop just waiting for that to come from other places, because when it doesn't come from other places and it doesn't come from you, now we put ourselves in a negative mental state. Be your own number one fan. That's such an important detail that I think too many people overlook. Last but not least, I want to challenge you with this. And I would challenge you to get this done within, today's April 4th. Can you have this done within a week's time and submit it to your coach? I would love to share 1 or 2 or 3 or more than that via social media, just to see what does pressure mean to you. So my challenge to you is write a letter to pressure. Dear pressure, ... And what's the evolution of pressure and what it's meant to you in your short life thus far. It could be a very soccer specific Dear Pressure letter. It could be more life encompassing. I don't really care what your perspective of it is. I just think it would be very beneficial for you to put that into context. What is pressure meant to you? Might have taken on a certain character early on when you looked at it one way, and now your perspective's changed on it, and maybe it helps you. And I use this specific example for your letter to say Dear Pressure, because that was the topic of our last sports psych session. Gosh, that was a few months ago now already, but it was performing under pressure, right? And to start that session, I had a visual of oranges and diamonds, right? What do you get when you put oranges under pressure? You get orange juice, right? How are diamonds created? A ton of pressure, right? Creates diamonds. And it depends on that perspective again. Where does pressure come from? So I'll leave you with that. I would love to be able to share some letters with our soccer community on what your story is and your relationship with pressure is. So hopefully we'll be able to share some of these ideas here in the near future. So until next time, this is This Time. Thanks for joining, everybody. Take care.